Hey guys, welcome to codeSQLserver. This is Sahil, and today we're going to discuss about computed columns. This tutorial will be divided into two parts. The first part, always as the same, will be basics, syntax, some example, difference between the types of computed columns, and some more of small pointers regarding the same. The next video will involve various scenarios, the limitations, advantages, and a slight revision of everything. So now let's get started. Computed columns. Now for example, we have a table which has multiple columns. Computed column will be a column the value of which will be generated by using the other columns of the same table in an expression. We can even use some user-defined function to get that value, wherein we can pass the other column values as parameters. Also, we can have constants for that computed column value. Now, as and when we'll do the examples, this thing will be more clear to you. The most important thing, one of the most important things to keep in mind regarding computed columns is that subqueries cannot be used for a computed column. Yeah, so this is the simple definition. I'll just show you an example. Now throughout the tutorial, wherever you'll see an example in red, that means it is my duty to show you an example. So let's move on to these SSMS. So for this example, let's create a table. Now there are two ways. I'll just show you. There are two ways to create a computed column. I'll use the create method first, which will serve both the purposes. You'll see the one way to do it and an example in columns. So let's do create table TBL marks. Okay. Let's create student simple. Let's get a student ID, integer, identity, primary key. Sorry, spelling. Yeah. Next, let's just take two subjects: maths, integer, English, integer. And now let's create a computed column with the name total marks. Okay. As now we have to describe the expression. Now the total marks will be maths plus English. Correct. And for right now, I'll just mark it persisted. I'll explain you the meaning of persisted. This is actually one of the types of computed columns. So as and when we'll move ahead with the PPTs, I'll explain you what is the meaning of this. So now let's create a computed column. The table is created. Now this table has 4 columns, out of which 3 are non-computed and 1 is computed column. So now let's go to the object explorer. If you'll see over here, when we'll expand the TBL marks columns, we'll see there is a column by the name total marks, and it is of type computed. This means this column is of type computed. So now let's insert a value in this table. Insert into TBL marks maths, English. Let's start with an intelligent student. Let's make it 92 in maths and 89 in English. Let's see what the output is. One row effect. Now whenever we'll select the table, now see, we did not do any calculations from our end. We did not do any addition while calling, nothing. But this is how the computed column works. When we created the table, we made this column a computed column, we provided it an expression, and thus whenever we insert the values of the non-computed columns, the result is automatically put into the computed column. So thus the value is the sum of the same as the expression we put in over there. This is a very basic example of how computed columns work. Now if I'll there might be many questions, like for example whether we'll be able to insert the value directly into the computed column. So let's try. I don't want to answer it directly, so let's try and say insert into TBL marks to maths, English, total marks, values. Let's make it 88 and 76 and anything, just for the sake of. Let's see, we got an error. The column total marks cannot be modified because it is either a computed column or is the result of union operator. Now this error means that we cannot directly insert a value in a computed column. Thus, the computed column will automatically put in values into its it will automatically take the values based on the expression which we'll provided while creating the table. I hope I've cleared the computed column basic at least till now. Moving ahead to the next PPT. Now see, I showed you one way to create the computed columns. Let's do the other way. Now the other way is pretty much simple. It is the same, when we do create tables. Sometimes we create using Object Explorer. So let's do that. If I go here, let's create a new table. Over here, let's do ID int. Let's do A, B, total. Please don't take too much keep too much focus on the column names. It is just a concept I'm trying to explain, so it's I hope we have more focus on what I'm trying to explain than to just go through the column names and all. So let's keep it int. Let's keep this as int as well. Let's keep this int for now. So for this purpose, let's go to its properties where they have come up. Now over here, if you notice, there will be an option stating computed column specification. Over here, let's pass the formula. Let's do A plus B. Automatically you'll see the is set up. Now is persisted. Let's keep it persisted for now, since we did in the earlier example as well. Okay, what is the issue? Okay, so this is done. So let's save the table TBL sum. Okay. So now when we'll let's first select star from, give me a moment, yeah, select star from TBL sum. See, we have 4 columns. Now let's insert into this, insert into TBL sum. Now we can ID A, B, values 1, keep it 10, 20. Okay, what's the output? See, successful. So this is the same thing, computed column. This was the computed column. This was the computed column. Expression, we set the expression in the formula property, and is persisted as yes. So yeah, I've now shown you two ways to create a computed column. I hope this is clear. So let's move to the next slide. What does it show? Now this is important. As I was showing you, till now we have created columns, computed columns using the persisted property. So now there are two ways to create a computed column. I mean, there are two types of computed columns: persisted and non-persisted. See, we did the persisted one. Now we'll do the non-persisted one. See, now in the persisted one, what happens? The data gets saved in the table. When we insert a value, when we inserted this value, we insert this record in the table, the value physically gets stored in the total marks computed table. Whereas in the non-persisted, if we'll keep it non-persisted, okay, right? See, everything will be same. Okay, let's do this. See, you'll see the same result, okay? But the only difference is this value will not be physically stored in the database. By this I mean is that this value, in case of non-persisted computed column, will be created on runtime, on the execution of select. Every time we'll do the select, this value will be calculated. That means this expression will be calculated, executed again and again to get this value. Whereas in persisted, once the insertion happens into the table, the value gets stored in that column physically. So due to which, now over here, calculated once when data is inserted into the table, whereas non-persisted, it is calculated on the run when the select query is executed every time. The non-persistent, obviously it will not consume any space because there is nothing to store, whereas persisted will store space, will use space because it stores a value into the database. The persisted is faster because it only it saves the value the first time, and then next time it just has to get the value from the table. Whereas the non-persisted case, the expression is calculated every time the select runs. So this is the main difference between the two computed columns. I hope I was able to clear your doubts, explain what are computed columns, the basics of it, and the difference between types of persisted columns, how to create persisted columns. In the next video, there are a few scenarios which I have created so that I could show you examples of. But maybe by that time I'll have some more scenarios lined up for you guys. I hope I was able to explain my my own understandings of computed columns to you guys. Thanks for watching. Please give me your feedback. I'm really happy for whosoever is seeing my videos, and I'm very open to feedback to improve my videos. Don't forget to share and subscribe. Thank you very much.